Welcome everyone, and we are here today with Kyle Vucko, co-founder and CEO of Indochino, who provides custom tailored quality premium menswear. So thank you for joining us first of all.
No, thanks for having me.
All right, and now, so you guys are a rapidly growing clothing company, which is pretty hard to do today. So first of all, what are the strategies behind some of your success?
You know, at our core, I think what's made us successful is we've always thought about solving a problem for folks, and the problem that we kind of want to tackle is helping a guy get dressed. So we never necessarily saw ourselves as a fashion company out of the gates, but really more of a design and problem and solution-oriented company. And you know, that's taken us in a bunch of directions, from reinventing how clothing is made in China and globally, so kind of focusing on supply chain, figuring out how to distribute it through the web, then mobile, then via our traveling tailor and our unique retail model. So, I mean, we've been a bit unique in that we've really gone where our customers want us to go and gone where we need to go to solve the problem, more so than be fixated on being a certain type of company or focusing on a certain type of business.
In a recent interview, Kyle, you explained that there's a difference between $1 million company and a $10 million company. Having directly experienced that, what does your vision of success look like?
Wow, my vision of success is personal. It's and I think everybody needs to define their own kind of definition of success, because I think there's a lot of ways to be successful. And so with Indochino, I think we had a really unique opportunity to change the way guys get dressed, which is not a lifestyle business. It's very much a business that's about changing an industry, changing the way things are done. And we have a pretty rare opportunity to do something on a very global and large scale. So that was very much the definition from day one, and we've pretty much stuck with that along the way. But kind of with that comes all sorts of things in terms of raising capital, hiring team, doing that ahead of your growth curve, going through scaling, all those sorts of things, and which we've kind of done pretty eyes wide open from the start.
So on that note, then, you've stated that successful people do things differently, specifically in their drive for excellence. So what do you do or try to do differently?
I think one of the things that I like to focus on is the idea of improving yourself. And I know that's not necessarily, that is rather generic, but what I found is, generally speaking, companies are a reflection of who you are. And so that's generally the good parts of you, and that's also oftentimes the not so good parts of you. And so what you get with a company, especially as it scales and it encounters a lot of pressures and challenges with growth and adding people and adding complexity, is it really puts a mirror to you in terms of where you're doing things really right, and also places where you really need to change the way you see the world, change how you show up in the world, etc. And so, one of the things I always focus on is kind of what's reflecting back at me in the company in terms of people, how they're thinking, what they're saying, etc.
That's great. So this all started out, Kyle, with Heichel's initial dilemma of needing a suit for a conference and not being able to find one that he could afford and that had that custom tailored look he was seeking.
Mm-hmm.
So he came to you and you guys decided that you would change the suit industry forever. Now you're in Vancouver and he's in China. How has your relationship evolved as co-founders and as co-founders working so remotely?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot, and I think it's part of the journey. I mean, we went to college together, so we were hanging a lot in person, and then that extended to translation. I guess evolving that relationship onto Skype, and it really maintained there, kind of seamlessly moving in and out of Skype depending on where we were located. I think that's the primary. I mean, we made it work. I think time zones make it difficult, obviously, because people have energy at different times of day, and can be difficult at times, especially in the early days where you get inspiration at certain times and not really able to download them in the same way that you want. But over time, you find ways to build structure around that and grow into that. So it's it's been good though. I mean, we've both been able to find a lot of success through Indochino. So.
And Kyle, you actually lived in China for 2 years when you guys started the company. For startups who have international sites or anything going on internationally that they should be supervising, do you recommend that they take that leap and live there for a few years?
It really depends on the business. I mean, we were doing mass customized apparel. It's a new way of building clothing. We had to be very hands-on, and we still very much are today because very few companies have done mass customized apparel at scale. And so that very much made sense for us to be there on the ground, involved. And for a more traditional product, something that's done or through mass production or something you can source more readily, it may or may not make sense. What we liked about being on the ground, and we still, about half the company is over there. What we still like about it is the idea that you can be really hands-on with your product. So you know what's going on, you can iterate quickly, you can change things quickly. There's a ton of value that comes into that. And it also produces a lot of complexity for an organization because from the very beginning, we were split across 2 continents and 2 countries. And also you have, as you grow and add people, the cultural differences of a company that's growing and being motivated in China and one that's growing and being motivated in Canada and North America. So it's definitely an interesting challenge and adds complexity for what starting up is already pretty complex. However, it was what was really needed for us to be successful as a company. And I think every company is a little bit different, so it's kind of just figuring out what works for you.
How often do you guys Skype?
At its peak, it was multiple times a day, including weekends. And now it evolves. It's evolved as our roles in the company have evolved and where we interact. So, and it also gets more and more formalized as you grow. All of a sudden, you have a standalone operations team in China, a standalone sourcing team, and they interact with technology or merchandising in certain ways. So over time, those get built into systems, and then those systems, are built into a regular cadence. So every Wednesday late afternoon in Vancouver is a Thursday morning meeting with the merchandising team, depending on where they are. So, and that's just natural to scale, and lots of people, and kind of those organic and always on systems become structured, systematic.
So then for companies with these remote teams, how important is that face-to-face interaction over just, say, communicating via discussions in Basecamp?
Yeah, so that's it. We never ended up using Basecamp. Actually, interestingly enough, Skype was our primary platform. Skype and email for a very, very long time. Because what we actually found is, we're lucky East Coast or West Coast of Canada versus Shanghai. 4 p.m. our time is kind of 8 or 9 a.m. Shanghai time. So you kind of get a good 2-3 hours every day, in kind of a startup mentality of overlap, sometimes more. So, you end up kind of getting this very natural flows around, the Skype windows pop up, you're having chats with multiple people over there, you sign off and then repeat the next day. So face-to-face is super important. And what we found is actually it's not always even possible, just given the distances, and also given rapid growth. All of a sudden you've got 3 new people in each department that's interacting on a weekly basis. It's tough. What we have found is a formalized intro process during kind of someone's initiation into the company is really important. Trying to add personality and visual into that. Making sure that part of those initial meetings is video chat, not just phone chats, etc. So you do build some of that personal connection, but a lot of it has to be supported by a pretty strong system.
Great. So I want to go back to something else that you said too, that a company is a reflection of who you are. Mm-hmm. But with you wear so many hats. You're the investor, founder, CEO. So there's a lot of reflection going on there. And you've also identified some pretty tangible differences between the different positions. So how do you effectively manage all 3?
I don't know if you do, and I think that's part of the nature of the environment is that ultimately you kind of pick and choose, and you focus on one area for a while, and then you move to another. And it's kind of pushing up different parts of the business or different parts of your role depending on where the company's at, what's required. And some things just get left for a while, and then you pick up others. And I mean, I think that's kind of just natural to people just being like a regular person in terms of you go through cycles where you're exercising a lot, you go through cycles where you're not exercising as much and you're spending more time with family. And it's, over the years you build up a good kind of understanding and build in routine across all of them. But there's definitely kind of a period of growth where you're growing into it. And that's, I think, also part of being a younger founder is you kind of have to focus on different areas, learn who you are, and build into it. And that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's probably still very much happening for me. So,
right. So which part of the company, sorry, I'm getting a little echo there. So which part of the company is the greatest reflection of Kyle? Is it founder Kyle, CEO Kyle?
Truly, it's when you catch me. I probably have had the most experience as a founder, just having started the company. That was very natural and intuitive to me. And now it's moving into becoming executive Kyle. And that's kind of professional CEO with a professional management team and bringing in the right pieces around to support you, because I think one of the bigger things that changes as you get bigger is that you evolve from being able to figure out everything on your own or being able to figure out anything with time to either you don't have time or truly you just can't figure it out fast enough. It's just you don't have a lifetime of experience in complex scaled supply chain or something like that. It's just the problems become more complex and more requiring of experience to solve them. And that's been an interesting kind of piece of learning. The broader team becomes more and more important. Who and how you hire those people becomes more important. And then learning how to interact with people where you don't have domain knowledge and still trying to make the right decision within that. Which is all more, I guess, what you call standard management, analysis, et cetera, which, is definitely a shift for kind of what's required of a founder, which is definitely a lot more kind of a startup CEO, which is decisions, et cetera.
And so as all of those different leadership attributes fall under the big CEO umbrella, Kyle, you've said that success as a CEO is not guaranteed, and that really stood out to me. So how do you personally earn that success while earning the respect of your team members to lead them?
Yeah, it's a difficult task. And, it's really striking a balance. And I mean, I think it's something that, especially as younger CEOs, you're trying to strike between respecting experience and what people have done before and calibrating that against your tuition and what your years of experience in the company, just having connected the dots, been there, done that, trying to figure out the right balance of, not micromanaging and letting someone do their thing. And I've done that well, I've done that not so well, and it's one of those things I think constant calibration, or at least at this point in my career.
So now I want to talk about your pop-up stores, which is pretty unique for online retailers. So as you're going into more and more cities, I mean, what have you learned in this domain? What works?
So we were one of the first and potentially first company to go from online to offline. And, like I said earlier, the piece that drove us to do that was, we had never set out to build an e-commerce company. We'd set out to build a company to help guys get dressed. And there was a certain group of guys that wanted to see and feel the fabrics, and they actually just wanted help getting styled, figuring out what to wear. And that's where these pop-up stores came in. And we've had a lot of success with them in the last 3 years. We've done, I want to say, close to 40 events across North America. So it's been, it's been pretty rapid growth for us, and we're continuing to evolve how we think about offline retail, and it'll continue to evolve as we learn more. But what was great learning for us was just the how much this is valuable to guys, even guys that have bought from us before, being able to meet us in person, to connect with the brand in a very different way. And for us as a company, we learn so much more. We see, you get a ton of data as a company online, seeing people's body measurements, age, kind of what they're buying, et cetera. I mean, any online company gets access to a ton of info. But what we were amazed by was the amount and value of the info we get in addition to all that by meeting with someone in person. The questions they're asking, the questions that are behind the questions that they're asking, the tone they use, what they look like and who they are in a much more tangible sense. And so, we've actually gotten more value just out of the face-to-face learnings we've gotten, even more so than potentially even the business driver of it, which is, our largest channel of business now. So just it's helped the overall business immensely.
So Kyle, would you recommend then if a local startup who does online business and maybe sells online goods and they do it through Etsy or they do it through a personal website, would you recommend that they get out to farmers markets or they go to networking events where they could interact with people face to face and tell them about their product that way versus just through their online portal?
That's very much been our experience, is seeing and meeting with people in person has a lot of value. So I can see that making a lot of sense. It's hard for me because I'm always hesitant to advise startups because you're doing so much and you're so busy, and it's generally the founder or kind of the team members that have the best sense of where to spend their precious time. But that's kind of learning through that.
Right. And so you can actually go into your pop-up stores and cut off the fabric, take that home, and I can get my Twitter handle on my suit.
That's right. Spot on.
I love it.
How many people have done that? Is that common?
Done, like specific?
The Twitter handle.
The Twitter handle.
Yes. Yeah, no, if you pull up, our history of people putting monograms in their suits, it's very entertaining.
So on the note of the pop-up store, Kyle, you've really referenced how much you've learned from your customers and how much they've motivated you to get out and do more pop-up stores because that's what they wanted. Indochino has been largely based on customer reviews, and you've interpreted that to deliver an even better product. Do you ever feel, though, that can be potentially inhibiting your creativity as a founder, listening so strongly to that feedback?
Yeah, I think it's always a balance, right, between being, I don't even know if it's a balance. I think it's just customer centricity is a combination of what people, are asking for and the things that they're not asking for that come as a result of your team or yourself being just in the details and being, and just being in the space for so long. And so I think the best companies are the combination of both. And so, yeah, we don't see it as an or, like maybe some companies do.
So if their feedback is going to be potentially impacting a company's mission, causing them to pivot, even if it's not too much, do you say go with customer feedback or stick to what the plan is?
I don't know if it's that black and white. I think it's a bit of both. And, ultimately that's your job as the leader of a company to make the call of when, if and when you should leap with kind of customer feedback or not, and because especially as you get to scale, there's very few things that are resounding from a yes or no. The ones that are clear yes or no resoundings, we will typically go with, but there's lots of things where, a group of our customers love something, a group of our customers would prefer something else. And, and that's actually where I think, your customer service or experience team has to come in and really say, well, what is the right balance? And, are we willing to have this, in order to get potentially something else that's more interesting? I think every decision is going to have kind of pro and con, and it's just a matter of weighing it out.
Well, we're glad you're taking care of that as CEO.
So now let's go to a time before you had any customer feedback. Back when you started in 2007, what do you wish you would have known back then?
It's a difficult thing, and I'm always really hesitant to answer that because, most of what you sign up for, especially as a young founder, you have no idea what you're getting into. And, you learn along the way as a result of that, but it's also that lack of knowledge, the naivety in some ways, is what allows you to accomplish so much because, everybody who is in the apparel industry that knew what it took to make suits, knew what it took to make custom clothing at scale, would have thought and do think that what we do is ridiculous. And so it's, as a result of that, we had a lot of really tough times. But it also is what allowed us to create something that's never been done before and create a product and experience that, was really head and shoulders above what's out there. And so it's a really a bit of a double-edged sword in terms of, that naivety is, potentially like means you're signing up for a bunch of, just being sideswiped by something you would have never expected. The flip side is it allows you to create things that have never been created before. So yes, the one thing, and I don't think I've been very far off on this personally, but I think, the real center needs to be kind of what's driving you to do it. And that needing to be extremely clear for you. So I think, for anybody starting, it's trying to get clear on what they want to accomplish before they get into it. And it's going to change naturally over time, but it's things like, what type of company do I want to build? Is it going to be a lifestyle business, or do I want to build a really big company or something in between? Do I really love the space that I'm in or the problem that I'm running at? And I think those two things, kind of what's your true north in terms of what you're trying to accomplish, and kind of the resulting company out of that. I think if you can clear on those, all of the ups and downs in between you can manage, because ultimately a startup typically takes a lot longer than people think. And meaningfully, like I would say 4 or 5-fold longer than what you think. And is typically going to be a lot harder than you realize. And because most success stories, and even the ones you read about in the paper, and the Uber successes have, 5, 10, 15 years of, very interesting roads. It's the people that kind of can stick through those roads that I think are ultimately the most successful. And those people typically were very clear on the type of company they wanted to build and very clear about what they were passionate about going in. Because that's kind of what got them through the darkest of days, or the most complex of times.
We're glad you pushed through those times, Kyle. Can we end with you telling us how our users can get in touch with Indochino and maybe a couple of pop-ups that are coming up this year?
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you asking. So it's Indochino.com, and you can buy from us anywhere in the world. And you don't require anything other than a friend to help you get measured in about 15 minutes. And in terms of pop-ups, we're spending some time up in Canada right now. So we're currently in Ottawa, and then we're off to Calgary shortly, and we'll be in a bunch of U.S. cities in August. So stay tuned on the site.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.